Boston and New England mean history, and so does the country club in Brookline. 75 years ago, 20-year-old Francis Ouimet defeated the great Englishmen Barton and Ray in a playoff for the U.S. Open Championship. Half a century later, another three-way playoff. This time the stately Julius Boros won over Arnold Palmer and Jackie Cupid. And late yesterday afternoon, the swarming spectators smelled playoff again. More than 150 had started, and now it was down to just 2. Would the winner be Nick Faldo, the British Open champion? He was playing near-perfect golf from tee to green, missing only 4 fairways in 72 holes. It was the reverse of 1913, a lone Englishman trying to fight off America's best. Or would it be Curtis Strange of Virginia? Twice he's been the tour's leading money winner. Last year he won almost $1 million on tour. But he's never won a major championship, and that burden weighs heavily on him. The 16th hole was critical. They were tied for the lead, but Faldo was bunkered on the par 3 hole and left himself with this putt for a par. It was not to be. However, Strange himself had flown over the green with his tee shot. His chip shot left him with this long putt for a par. It looked most unlikely that he would make it, but this was the result. Strange had retaken the lead with 2 to play. But on 17, his first putt left him with this testing situation. With the first putt still bothering his concentration, he missed the par putt, and now they were tied again with but 1 hole left to play. Strange found a bunker with his second shot on 18, while Faldo was just off the green with a very difficult putt. Curtis had to get up and down in 2 to have a chance at a playoff, it seemed. It was ultimate pressure in the U.S. Open, but what a shot he hit! And now the pressure was on Faldo. On the fast, contoured green, 3 putts were a real possibility. But if he made this one, he was the champion. It was a wonderful putt that just missed. The true sportsmanship of golf was epitomized by the sight of their wives embracing just off the green. When Strange putted out after Faldo had made his, the stage was set for the 3rd playoff in the 3 U.S. Opens held at the Country Club. It would be England versus the United States, man to man at 18 holes for the U.S. Open Championship. ABC Sports and the United States Golf Association invite you to the playoff for the 88th U.S. Open Golf Championship. Well, it's one more time to the Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts. One more time to the U.S. Open of 1988. A playoff this time between Nick Faldo and Curtis Strange. It's a hot summer day with a cooling breeze, but the possibility of a thunderstorm exists. One thing is for certain, before this championship is over, we'll all have seen more than the standard ration of great golf. How do they stand? Well, as of this moment, Curtis Strange has a 1-stroke lead over Nick Faldo at the end of 9 holes of play. This, of course, is stroke play. They're playing for score, not holes. It isn't a match, although it looks very much like match play as you see them on the fairways. Well, hello, I'm Jim McKay reporting live from Brookline once again, and the comparisons with Revolutionary days are kind of inevitable in this situation. Here we have an invader from England just outside Boston and defending the title for the United States, a Virginia man. Curtis Strange, just as George Washington came up from there to take command of the American troops, Curtis is in charge today, and as we said, in charge by 1 stroke. There's a great difference, of course. This time the confrontation is on the field of sport. And as you will see and hear, the crowd has been reacting to both men with just about equal encouragement. Let's bring in right now Jack Whitaker, my colleague. Seems like we've been here a long, long time, and the issue is still in doubt.
But a great week, hasn't it?
Oh, terrific.
Tremendous golf and a marvelous place, and there's something in the New England air, Jim, I think. There have been 9 United States Opens contested in Boston area, and 7 of them had ended in playoffs, including the 3 that have been held here. And you know, the United States Open is the last of the majors to have an 18-hole playoff. And many times they can become anticlimactic, as the last one was in 1984 when Fuzzy Zoeller defeated Greg Norman at Wingfoot. But this one is something different. These 2 started out a little shakily, but now they are really playing golf, and I think we're going to get down to the last final hole before the issue is solved, and I know we're going to have a very, very respectable United States champion, Dave.
Well, there's no question about that, Jack. No matter which one of these players wins, I mean, they were both in very good moods this morning and seemed very calm. And you take Nick Faldo, who is the present British Open champion. And you go back in history and you look at the 1913 playoff here. Ted Ray was the British Open champion then. He didn't win. You go back to the 1963 playoff here. Arnold Palmer was the British Open champion. He didn't win. So if you're a hunch better, then you've got to bet on Curtis Strange, who most Americans feel is the best player in the world, as a matter of fact. The rap against him, as Jim said earlier, he has not won a major championship. All Curtis has done is make money. But no matter who wins here today, as Jack just said, I think you're going to see some wonderful golf, and we've seen it all week long.
Here's a look at the weather, specifically the temperature 85 degrees. It feels hotter because the humidity is 75%. Wind out of the northeast at 7 miles per hour feels a little bit gustier than that where we are at any rate. The forecast is for sunny. Well, that is certainly good to hear. Now let's get a report on the 10th fairway from Bob Rosberg. He's out there, Bob.
Curtis Strange, after shooting 1 under par the front 9, has hooked his drive at 10. He got a little break and then it went into the dry rough where the people have been walking. Sort of straw-like rough. He's not going to be able to grip the ball, though. It's not the kind of lie where he'll be able to spin it. And this hole, you do not want to put the ball above the flag because the pin is back today a little on the slope. So anything past the hole here would be really tough to get it up and down. He is 200 yards from the hole. I would think that he would take a 4-iron and hope that it jumps just a little. If it doesn't jump and go in the front bunker, he can still have the possibility of getting it up and down in 2.
You heard Curtis there talking to himself a little bit. Golfers are wont to do.
Ball did not fly. It really came out of there quite soft. It was in that front bunker.
Yes, it certainly is. Can you tell if that's a downhill lie? It looks like it might be half buried, too. Jerry Pate, you're closer to the ball, I think. Can you see it?
Yes, Jim. He is not buried, and he has a pretty good lie, although he has a lot of room between him and the flag.
Okay. Bob Rosberg, as we go along, will be at the hitting area each time, and Jerry Pate will be at the arrival area. So if we can't tell you the story, there's something wrong with us.
Faldo was 185 yards. Beautiful lie right at the top of the hill, looking right down at the flag.
I'm watching that.
Remember, Strange leads by 1 at the end of 9 holes. Surprisingly large gallery here for a Monday. You know, most people do have to work, but as you can see, they're filling up most of the space available. Quite make up his mind, maybe, Ross?
Yes, the wind has been really swirling today, Jim. It's blowing about 10 to 15 miles an hour, but it's coming from all different directions. And that...
What's he going into his bag for, would you guess?
Well, I really don't know. He's looking. It actually looks like he's looking at a diagram of the golf course.
Oh, yardage chart?
No, it's not a yardage chart,
huh?
Jim. It's a diagram of the golf course, and I really think, in the back of my mind, he may be not sure of what is in front of this green.
I see. Uh-huh. And having seen Curtis catch the bunker, he wondered again.
I've never seen that happen on a golf course, I believe. Somebody looking at a diagram of the actual golf course.
Interesting. Trailing by 1, you can't afford a mistaken judgment. There is the 10th hole, Dave.
Straightaway hole, 438 yards. Strong par 4, though. Curtis in the front bunker.
Stay straight. Stay straight.
Jerry?
Okay, just in the left rough. He pulled it, and the wind also carried it a little bit to the left, and I think he's going to have a little trouble with his back swing on this next shot, but he has plenty of green to work with.
Because of the next cut of the rough there.
Yes.
Yes. Well, as they're walking up, let's take a look at some of the important moments of the front nine now on videotape with Jack Whitaker and Dave.
This was the third hole, Jim. A beautiful par 4, a blind shot again from the left rough.
And he caught an awful lot of this ball out of that tall rough there. And as you can see the way it turns out, what you call a flyer moving along there, he hit a marvelous shot just to put it on the green.
They were all even here. They had both missed the greens on the first 2 holes, but Curtis was on beautifully here at 3. Now the birdie attempt.
Curtis putted very well on the front nine. He made a good forward one, a good bunker play at 2, up very close. Didn't make much of a putt there. Nick, on the other hand, here at the third hole, he put his ball in the left-hand bunker, had an awkward stance. The lie was okay, and it came out to here. Both got a lot of feel and touch today. They both putted very well on the front nine, as we see Curtis here at 4th hole, 3rd shot. Jack?
And even in the U.S. Open, things like that can happen.
He hit one of those that we're not going to say on the air to spare all the golfers sitting at home what that was. So he's left himself quite a lengthy putt here for his par.
But again, a good feel on the green.
Every putt, either one of them struck on the front nine, looked as though it may have a chance to go. Now we go to the 5th hole, 439-yard par 4. Curtis finally put 2 shots back to back here.
Right.
That marvelous shot, 10 or 12 feet from the hole. Faldo had gone over the green, came back very close, got his 4. This is Curtis now. They're both 1 over par at this time, but Curtis to go back to even.
Marvelous birdie at hole number 5.
And to take a 1-shot lead.
Now at the 6th hole, the short uphill par 4. Faldo for birdie.
Once again, he hit the hole.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe a little strong going by, but every putt both of them had on the front nine, it looked like they could have made each one of them. They could have run the table, and of course he just gets up, taps that in, goes forward, stay a stroke back.
Nick, who couldn't buy a birdie until late yesterday afternoon. Now the 7th, the par 3, about 205 yards to the hole. And here they started to play some golf. Curtis on beautifully. And now the response.
Go in. Go in.
You can hear him say, go in. Now that's pulling for your shot there. What a great answer to Curtis's good iron shot in there. 2 marvelous shots on one of the hardest par 3s you'll ever play.
Then Curtis did this. Birdie 2. Try that one on, Mr. Faldo. Okay, Mr. Strange.
To stay just a stroke back. Just covers him.
2 birdies at 7. They have the 8-hole pars, and at the 9th hole, Faldo had this for a birdie to go even with Curtis. And so they made the front 9 with Curtis 1 shot ahead, and we are now live.
All right. All right, this is Faldo for his par on the 10th hole. All right, safely down. Imagine with what interest this golf is being watched live in England tonight, where it's about 9:15 in the evening, and Nick Faldo's parents are minding his little girl. They're all watching set side. Now this is on tape. This was Curtis Strange's shot from the bunker, remember? Another gorgeous bunker shot, and from there he made his par. So at the end of 10 holes, it's still Curtis Strange by 1 over Nick Faldo. This was Faldo's chip. This is where he put his second shot, and from there went up to where you saw him live making this putt for the par.
Indeed, and I believe both gentlemen are in the fairway. Is that true, Bob Rosberg?
Yes, both are absolutely in the middle of the fairway. You couldn't have hit them any better, and this is really a tough driving hole, as Dave said. Curtis is 180 yards, and Nick is 175. Wind coming a little out of the right now, but very little. You can barely feel it here because this hole is down between the trees. Pin is 12 back on the green. I would think a 5-iron might be the shot here for Curtis. This is a hole you don't want to take something and ease up on it. You want to hit a shot hard here. Get the ball up in the air.
Unless you want to, you have to use it.
Mark Harmon, Curtis's caddy.
It's 75, yes.
Fading in right on the flag. Great looking golf shot. A little bit long. Beautifully
played. Jerry, Curtis's brother got here today, his twin brother, and they thought it was Curtis at the gate. He didn't have a badge. They let him in. He went right to the USGA office and got a badge.
Well, he certainly looks exactly like Curtis, and not quite as good a player, but he can play.
Nick Faldo.
Faldo also with a 5-iron. 175. Wind kicking up a little more, blowing a little harder now than it was when Curtis shot.
Also a good-looking shot. The wind's taking it to the right of the flag, and it's a little bit long. I think it's going to go over in the back edge, right in the column.
So both of them down here at the 11th, and David had talked with both of these combatants before hostilities began today and asked them to assess each other.
You played with Nick yesterday, obviously, for those that watch, but have you played much with Nick in the past, and how would you assess his game, strengths, weaknesses, or what?
We have played quite a lot together. When I first started, we played on the European Tour, and I still go over and play the European Tour quite a bit, and obviously in the Ryder Cup matches we've played against each other once or twice. So Nick is a very consistent type player. he's changed his swing and changed it dramatically and great. He's a much more consistent player, very straight off the tee and a good putter, and that's what you have to be in the Open.
About Curtis Strange and his golf game.
Well, he's a strong, gutsy competitor. You know, he's been around, he's been on tour a long time. We've both probably been about a similar amount of time. He's done very well in the US. You know, US to lead the Order of Merit is a great achievement, and you know, that takes a lot of consistency. He's a consistent, strong player. I mean, I don't know how you can compliment a guy, a pro, more than saying that he's got every department in his game, and he's a winner. So it's going to be tough.
All right, it's going to be tough, and we've seen a great match here so far. One shot separating them.
And what Nick meant when he said Order of Merit, that is what is called the money list here and the Order of Merit there.
This chip is going to be lightning coming down the hill, David. This is the 6th green that Faldo has missed. He missed the first 5. But that's not to say that he didn't play well. He hit one bad shot at the 3rd hole that went in the bunker, but the rest of the misses were just off the fringe and close, actually pretty close to the hole.
Bob, what about the weather conditions? Can you make any comparison? The first few days it was real windy at the first tee, I thought.
Well, it's been windy all day, and it's been very hard. That's why they've missed a few greens. And it swirls here. It really is a tough wind to figure out.
That looked like a 7-iron, David?
Oh, go more like an 8. Sure, if it's very fast, you want a lofted club, which he's done. That's why you can't have a favorite club. If you're downhill like that, you want an 8 or a 9 or a pitching wedge, something so you can get a little softness to it. Uphill may have been a 7 or a 6. And this tells you, if you're a stat man, exactly the greens hit. Now remember, that's after 72 holes. Fairways hit. Faldo yesterday was perfect. And putts, of course. Say this, Curtis may have looked like he putted better yesterday, but Saturday and Sunday, Curtis missed 2 or 3 short ones. Nick never missed one short one. On the other hand, Curtis made a lot of others.
Kind of a putt here, David. If he can happen to make this one, he might jump into a 3-shot lead.
You can see, he watched Faldo's chip come down there, and you can see he's aimed well to the right of the hole here. It looks as much as 4 or 5 feet. A little character builder there. Wears on your nerves when you miss greens and you keep having to play shots, especially when greens are this fast and the prize is so important. As Nick says, you know, I won my national championship, the one I wanted to win, and now maybe in this there's a little more pressure on Curtis because he's trying to win his national championship.
Good crowd out here for this Monday playoff. Continuing the reputation New Englanders have as lusty and enthusiastic sport fans. Curtis now, 2-shot lead after 11 holes.
At worst.
At worst.
This is a tough stretch of holes that played harder, 10, 11, 12, and 13 in any stretch on the course.
Strange is -1, Nick Faldo +1 after 11 holes of play. And let's move over now to the par 4, 12th hole.
Jack, this is one of the hardest par 4s you'd ever want to have to play. It's you tee off in the trees there. Looks pretty level from this area. You cannot see exactly where the ball lands, even on your tee shot. But your troubles have only begun if you put it in the fairway. If you put it in the rough, you really got a problem. But you hit up over this hill to a very small green. You can see one bunker to the left, two to the right, and it's a very small green. The flag, I think they've kept very generous during the tournament because of the length and hardness of this hole. Today, it's 60 feet back on the green and 21 feet from the left side. So that's about, on this small green, dead center almost. Don't need to trick this up, Jim, with any kind of funny pin position.
A hole like none other that many of the young golfers participating in this Open have ever seen before. They don't build holes like that. Actually, the 12th is plays as par 5 for the members. Curtis Strange with a 2-stroke lead.
1963, as you see there, birdie, birdie, par, par. That Curtis probably played it as well as anybody, if not better than anyone in the field. When Arnold Palmer played here in '63, he birdied it twice and parred it twice.
There are the statistics. Man from Virginia, attended college in North Carolina. Cradle of champions, you might say, Wake Forest University.
You knew he was going to be a good player. As a freshman in college, when he was playing for Wake Forest, made an eagle, the last hole in the NCAA championships. Not only win the team title for Wake Forest, but he won the individual title with that. Curtis has been a good player a long time.
The first famous one to come out of that school is a man named Arnold D. Palmer.
That's a beautiful looking drive right down the right center.
That's the right side, isn't it, Dave? This hole.
That it is. The left side, you can get a little blocked by those trees. You have to play a hook. This way he has his choice of what he wants to play, what kind of shot.
That was a fairway wood or fairway metal club that he used there. Not wanting to drive through the fairway.
Well, the second shot down,
Ron.
straight downwind, isn't it?
Nick, as you see, has not birdied this hole yet. 3 pars, bogey in the first round. Similar size and build, these two fellas are, and in age and length of their careers.
Talk about Curtis going to Wake Forest. Nick came over and went to University of Houston for about 6 weeks, but I think the heat sent him home. I think Nick was too used to that Houston heat in September and October.
There's an Ascot where the races are.
Well, that's another beauty there. Right down the right side, absolutely perfect position.
Well, Nick can afford no mistakes at this point. One shot behind is one thing. 2 shots behind, 7 holes to play, a little tougher. There they are, the combatants, the adversaries. From across the sea, Nick Faldo, Virginia, Curtis Strange. And only one can win. We'll return with more U.S. Open playoff action after this message and a word from our local station. Can he become one of the few men to hold the United States and British Open championships at the same time? Well, going to have to come from behind if he's going to do it. But you know, Dave, the list of people who have held those 2 championships in their lifetime is a very impressive one.
And the 2 that have held it at the same time is like an all-star list.
And even winners of the U.S. and British Opens, you start with Ted Ray, then you go to Harry Barton, once called the greatest golfer who ever lived. Long Jim Barnes, Walter Hagen, Bobby Jones, Tommy Armour, Gene Saracen, Ben Hogan, Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Tony Jacklin, Lee Trevino, Johnny Miller, and Tom Watson. And this man can add his name to that illustrious list. He'll come from behind today. Should they be tied at the end of 18 holes today, it will not be another 18 holes, it will be a sudden death.
And Nick has walked, I assume, Jerry or Bob, did he walk all the way up to see where it was, or?
Yes, he did, David. He went all the way up where he could see the green, getting some kind of idea of what he wants to shoot at in the background. Even as tall as this flag is, he cannot see it. It's 215 yards. The wind is kicking up a little in their face and out of the right, but mostly out of the right.
Are you on? It's going to get on the front, isn't it? It's going to scoop. Yeah.
Trees that you see in the back, just to the left of the beech tree, I'm guessing what it is, somewhere between there and the corner of the bunkers where you want to keep the ball or have it end up, whether you hook it or fade it.
Well, we had one
straight.
They can't see. Frank, that's the hardest hole after the 4th round.
Okay.
Hard to hit what you can't see.
Always a little tentative when that happens. You don't know where it's going to land. You know there's not much green area. I would think if you changed clubs here, he may have gone to a shorter one. Because if you do miss, you may be a little better off being a little short.
The wind changed a little too, David. It got more behind them and out of the right. Looks like a 3-iron.
All right, right on track.
Here it comes. Well, it looks like it's going to be in the left rough, just short of the left bunker. Just didn't quite all the way up to it.
What ball was that?
I believe he might have hit that ball just a shade heavy.
Well, the way to play this, obviously, they've got to land it short and run it in. This is an awful long hole to be landing it on the green and stopping the ball.
Well, there you see the man marking where the ball is. Okay? That flag walks away.
I feel like he would much rather be in that bunker than in that tall grass. A lot easier to play out of the bunker than the lies very poor in the tall grass. No one knows how to play that shot. Maybe the best that ever played it was Boris, one here in '63.
That's also hit a little heavy.
Well, that one's going to be short also. It's going to take a big hop and maybe just hang up short of the bunker.
So they both missed the green. Strange leading by 2, had a chance there to really grab this thing by the throat.
No.
Close on the green.
Neither one are in the bunker. They're both just short.
So how do the leaders stand? Well, there it is. 2 men. Strange by 2 strokes over Nick Faldo again. This is stroke play, not match play. Strange 1 under par, Faldo 1 over par. You know, the United States Open is the only one of the 4 major championships now that has an 18-hole playoff on Monday. The Masters has a sudden death playoff. PGA has a sudden death playoff. British Open has a 5-hole concept with the man who is lowest for the 5 extra holes in total to be the winner. And if they get to the end of that and tie, they have sudden death. Here it's 18 holes. Frank Hannigan is the senior executive director of the USGA. We'd like to ask him why you stay with that, Frank.
Well, we don't mean to denigrate how anybody else decides their competition, Jim, but we tend to think that it's a sense of feel, that a great event, a national championship, is better decided by a round of golf rather than something that happens in a matter of minutes at the end of 18 holes. And I was interested and pleased to note that both of these players asked last night in their press interviews what they thought about it. Both said that they preferred 18 holes to sudden death or a cluster of holes.
Okay. We'll see how that turns out as they play an 18-hole playoff for the United States National Championship. Country Club in Brookline. Here they come. Turn 7, look at the lie. Gallery gathered around. Surprisingly large gallery, really. That was very, very good.
I wondered how it was going to be, Jim, but in the practice rounds, I never saw so many people out here last Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I thought maybe there would be a large crowd, even though there were only 23,000 season tickets sold, which is what you needed to get for a badge today or to get in today.
They didn't sell any new tickets today. You had to have one.
Jim, I believe they have at least 15,000 here.
Do you?
Yeah, this is a tremendous crowd for a playoff, believe me.
I believe you. Rossi says it's a tremendous crowd. You know he does not exaggerate crowds. 3 U.S. Opens at the Country Club. 1913, 15 years later, or 50 years later, and then 25 years after that. Look at the number of entries, 165 to 5,775. The purse. Himself a long putt for the par.
What kind of lie does Nick have?
Nick has a beautiful lie, as good as you can expect in this rough.
Can you get it very close, Bob?
Well, it's going to be difficult to get it close, David. The angle he's got coming in over that little rise makes it very, very difficult. No matter how good a lie he has, the ball is going to have to be a little hot coming out of there.
Get up! Can he stop it close? Oh boy! Now things could tighten up. Beautiful shot.
They're just great. They are so good. If you give a player of this caliber a good lie, he will find some way to get it close to the hole. And depending on how this comes out, Curtis may look back tonight knowing that Faldo missed the green to the left here at 12, and with a 2-stroke lead, you think you put it on the green and you put the pressure on him. He's left the door kind of open here a little bit for Nick. But whoever does win will change their life forever. In a very good way.
If Nick should win, Britain would hold the United States Men's Open Championship and Women's at the same time. Remember Laura Davis?
Get in there, baby. Bring it.
He's around that hole all the time. How far away?
All day long, both of them really had a good touch. Tony Jackman, last Englishman to hold, or he did hold these two titles at the same time.
Yes. Since then, both Trevino and Watson have had that honor. Forum, Barton, and Jones, Sarrazin, Hogan, Nicholas. For the par. So the lead is reduced by 1 stroke. Strange now by 1 over Nick Faldo. And there are 6 holes left to play. Let's have a look now at the 13th hole, Dave.
The last in this string of 4 very hard par 4s, 433 yards. The players, depending on the wind, may not use a driver here. So with the wind, that lake you see down on the right does come into play. The fairway is going with the players downhill. The problem, most of the time, what sort of lie do you draw in this fairway? Most of them are a little bit downhill, and you're shooting from a downhill lie to this green. You do have an opening there in front. Let's see more of these this week where you have an option of playing a shot into the green. This is Jackie Cupid in the 4th round in 1963. And at the time he was leading, of course, Jackie didn't quite get there. He got the double bogey at 17, which is Jack Whitaker, been a very historic hole, 17.
If you think that wind is 7 miles an hour, as we showed you at the top of the show, you know it's different looking at that picture. It's thunderstorm kind of wind, going around in circles and blowing dirt and leaves, and those eddies that foretell that thunderstorms may well be on the way. And of course, the wind will affect how these holes are playing. 433 yards. That look like a driver, David?
It sure does to me.
Driving right into the wind, David, I would think they would come with drivers at this hole.
Faldo's cut that one in the right rough, and if it gets in that long fescue, he's not going to be in good shape. Just in the edge of it.
Yeah, there's a shot he has. The rough across the water. He'll have to go across that pond.
Well, he drew a good lie there.
He did?
Just jumped out. He has a very good lie.
Curtis.
It's a hard drive when you're on an elevated tee and you're driving into the wind because you're trying to fight to keep it low when you really can't.
Boy, that's a big drive down the left side.
We are back at the 88th United States Open Championship, the 18-hole playoff between Curtis Strange and Nick Faldo, and there is Nick Faldo after 12 holes. He trails by 1 stroke and has put his drive over here in the right rough. Tonight on ABC's Monday Night Baseball, American League East rivals will meet when the front-running New York Yankees meet the Detroit Tigers, and in the National League, the Cincinnati Reds play Houston. Check local listings for the game in your area. They begin live at 8 Eastern tonight on ABC Sports.
8-6 on the right.
Nick Faldo is 175 yards from the flag. Has a good
Right on the
lie,
TV
but the
tower,
ball
actually.
is up above him. And the tendency here is, for one, the ball may balloon, and it's into the wind just slightly. And number 2, he has to guard against hooking it. Normally, the ball will hook off this kind of a lie, although the rough may prevent it from hooking as much as it usually does.
Order, no problem there, Bob?
No problem.
Stay straight. Bye.
Safely on for the British boy.
Curtis is 165 yards. Nice angle. He lands the ball to the left of the hole. It should kick down to the right. Ball slightly below his feet, but it should be no problem.
Both of these gentlemen have hit 4 out of 12 greens. A little gusty winds blowing here at the country club today.
They putted well on the front 9. Curtis had 11 putts and Nick 13.
Two of them on the green safely here, and David Marr was a busy little man before this playoff began. Here's more of his conversation with Nick Faldo.
This is only your second Open in the United States. Is there any reason for that?
Well, simply that our qualification's been very difficult. They've only taken #1 in Europe as an automatic exemption into the US Open, which is quite a feat to do. I managed to do it in '83 and I got in '84. I sure, it's one of the wishes that I have, that, at least I wish that all these major bodies in golf could just get down and sit on a table one day together and thrash it out for a few hours, because there's too many good players in the world that miss out. I think you've got to accept golf is now a world event. Forget all these shorelines and water in between. Let's have all the best players in the world playing together. Then it's fair, because if you win a championship like this, you want to sit back and say, I beat everybody. Everybody teed it up that week in the world who can play, and I beat them.
Here. Well spoken, Nick.
Very mature young man. Been through a lot of problems. That win was so important to him in the Open Championship last year, his Open. Suffered a lot of criticism in the British press.
Playoffs, there have been many of them here in the United States Open, and 60 years ago today, Johnny Farrell beat Bobby Jones in a 36-hole playoff. Sorry to say that Johnny Farrell passed away last week in Florida, but our condolences to his family, and thank you for the many, many fine memories.
He was one of the first of the dapper dressers. We tend to think of Demerit, but before Jimmy was Johnny, who with his silk shirts and +4s.
Marvelous big old trees here, many of which were around 75 years ago. Faldo taking a good bit of time with this putt.
As Curtis did yesterday, you've hit a good shot, but you're putting defensively because it is so fast.
13th hole, profile of how it's played through the 4 rounds of the tournament. 14 others.
It's the others you must stay away from. Talk about Johnny Farrell a minute ago, and we'll miss him, but one of Nick Faldo's mentors was Gerald Micklem, RNA official, a wonderful player who also passed away recently.
Ranks getting thinner. Now Curtis. the easiest putts either that he makes for birdies.
None of these are easy. See that just moving so slowly and yet still moving. Makes this putt very important now. As they all are, obviously, but you don't want to drop 2 at the one hole. Daylight when you pick up 2 at once, because Nick has to feel like after he picked up a stroke, then didn't hit a drive in the fairway at 13 and played a good shot up there. Now it looks like if he makes this, he's going to 3-putt. This is no cinch either. This is so quick if you ever get it outside of the hole on the wrong line. All right, 3 putts, bogey, birdie for Curtis.
Timely putt from Curtis Strange here at the 13th hole. Here it is again. Looks a lot shorter from this angle, but watch how slow this is moving. Even in slow motion, it looks fast. Yes, that will get your confidence in high gear, won't it? Here is the 14th hole. This is the 1 par 5 on the back 9, 527 yards, a slight dog leg to the left. Now, if the wind stays the same and it's downwind, if they both hit good drives, they'll be able to reach this particular hole. They both could have reached it yesterday, and yet both walked off with pars. And one of the wives said, "Isn't that terrible? Neither one birdied the hole." But if elevated green there, and that's what makes the second shot a little hard to get on the green. You've got to take plenty of club to get up that hill. But when you do, and if it's downwind, we'll watch Curtis and what he did on Thursday. This is his 3rd shot at this par 5. And that was just beginning to pick up a little speed, as you see the little smile on Curtis Strange there. And of course, he made a heroic 4 there on Saturday when he hit in that little fairway bunker, Jim.
Okay, now they're on the 14th tee. Rossi, you're there. Considering the wind, do you think it's possible for either of them to get home in 2?
Yes, the wind is blowing right behind them, Jim, and they can get home easily here. I would think this hole would play a drive and an iron today.
Nick Faldo needs something dramatic, and the possibility exists here. Possibility of an eagle. But it's there for Curtis, too. It's 3-stroke lead.
Hit it down the left side, and if it takes a good kick, it'll jump back into the...
That's not a very pleasant place to be, is it, Dave? Up against that collar.
Depends if it's right against it, because then you're not fish or foul, and you got to be careful with a shot like that. So Jerry, just take a look at it. Jerry?
Well, he's all right, David. He can lay it up with no problem. He can get the club on it with no problem.
The key there was lay it up, though, when he might want to have had a chance at reaching the green. Big drive here for Nick, Jim.
Birdied this once in 4 tries on opening day. 527 yards. He has a really big drive in his bag. This is the time.
See how he's a pronounced inside waggle there.
Oh, that's a big one right down the middle. Real big. Going to carry over the hill and be well down the fairway.
Exactly what Faldo needed at this point. Faldo is right down the middle of the fairway with an excellent chance to get home in 2 and perhaps pick up some ground.
I am very surprised to see Curtis Strange right here with wood. He's got a fairway metal club. I would think that he would lay the ball up, but he has a very dangerous shot to play with this club. But I guess he thinks if he can put it in the right-hand bunker, it won't be too bad. But at the angle, he's got a very tough shot to try and put it on the green.
I thought when I saw him move the people back on the left, Bob, he was just trying to get them back so he could see the pin.
After looking at his lie, David, I thought he was going to take a 7 or 8 iron and lay it up to the bottom of the hill where he was yesterday. The fairway's very fast. There's a lot of wind behind. Now, he can reach the green. There's no problem with that. He's about 240 yards if he can get there. But being 3 shots ahead, this is a shot that I am surprised at.
It's Bob Rosberg on the fairway.
That's a good-looking shot. If this is that wind, well, it's going to roll up the hill. If it catches a rough, it'll be all right.
It's a beautiful shot. Just short of the green.
It stays there. Remember yesterday he hit a pretty good shot with an iron up there. Got on the green and then back down to about 30 yards short.
David, there's a little ledge that his ball's sitting on, and it's the only place his ball could have possibly stopped it. And if it hadn't stopped there, it would have gone 30, 40 more feet down the hill.
He got away with it.
Nick Faldo, 210 yards. Very tough pin placement to get close today. Wind is coming out of the left and behind. The pin is only 8 yards from the left-hand edge. I would think this is a 4-iron.
And he has to start maybe a little gamble here, Bob. He may try to bite out a little over that bunker, don't you think?
Oh, he has to, David, because Curtis has got an easy-looking chip, and he's chipping right up the hill, and he's got to try and make 3.
He's coming in nice and high, cutting in towards the flag. It's a good-looking shot. Safely on the green.
Yeah. On the back end.
Should come this hill.
Back, Jim.
Still moving. That would be about, yes.
That gives you some idea of how fast his putt is going to be down that hill. That's the problem with that hole. It's a par 5. A lot of players have been able to reach. Have a little brunch there.
Yes.
Little apple.
Well, it's tea time.
Tea time. All right. Speaking of tea time, this is at the 14th tee. Now, Curtis Strange and Nick are about the same when you see their setup. Now, Curtis's hands may be a little bit higher, but their knees are the same. Nick's a little taller. When they get back, you notice they both keep their left heel pretty much on the ground. They both get to the top, backs to the target. Now, if you remember, Curtis hit his ball to the left here. Nick hit the ball right down the center of the fairway. Now, when we get back down to impact, I believe you'll see Curtis's left hip will be much more out of the way, his right heel higher than Nick's left heel. So Nick is able to keep the club on line a little longer while Curtis is spinning out of the way, which produces in a good player a pull or a hook. And Nick, on the other hand, can stay on line longer and hit it right down the fairway.
Okay. You were talking about Curtis Strange's twin brother, Alan. Well, there he is.
Scott brother in Richmond, Virginia. Not quite as gray as Curtis there. 6-footers will put a little more gray in your hair.
Identical twin brother.
And
he was a good, pretty good
hair too.
Pretty good player though, isn't he?
Oh yes, he played at East Tennessee State, I believe, on the golf team.
A little bit on the tour.
Yes, for East Tennessee.
You know who came by to say hello a few minutes ago? It was Jack Corrine, who was the captain of the U.S. Olympic hockey team back in 1960, the first time they beat the Soviet Union. He lives in the house right next door to Francis Ouimet's house. Says he remembers him. hit that up there, remember, with a metal club. Dave talked to him about that subject a little bit earlier.
Well, hopefully everybody didn't think it's just the metal clubs. There's a little bit of talent in this body. I changed 4 or 5 years ago, and I just like them. I feel like for a long time there, my fairway wood game was not as good as my iron game and my driving game, and for whatever reason. So I switched to the metal wood, 3-wood, and I hit it better. Then I went to the driver, and I didn't like it for a while, but I went to it and said I'm going to try it, and I ended up playing well with it very shortly after that. And then I changed to the 4-wood, metal wood. I said, well, if these two things are that good, let me try a 4-wood. And that was right before the 85 Masters, because I wanted a good 4-wood there because of the par 5s. And so everything was worked out, and just because of that, I guess because of maybe the exposure when everybody sees the metal woods in my hand all the time, but I really like them, and I think they're very good for me.
Different strokes, as they say. Different folks. Looking this one over very carefully. This will be, remember, his 3rd shot on the par 5 hole. His opponent is on the putting surface at 2.
I think the metal club is here to stay now. I remember first in 1949, there was an aluminum club that it looked like might make a little dent in the market, but it didn't. But now with a lot of players playing at least one of these.
Get in the hole.
And that for birdie attempt, certainly makeable.
One thing about when they cut the fairways as low as they do now with the new conditions, they can cut them with the triplexes. I think it makes that particular kind of shot a little harder because the ball is sitting a little tighter. If it was a little fluffier, you may be able to play it a little softer as we look at the statistics through 13 holes.
Not much to choose between them. Strange with a 3-stroke lead.
Coming into the day, they had 14 birdies each.
Look at the people lined up. You could see them a moment ago at the top of your screen, lined up way down the fairway and all around the green. They're already gathered. The grandstands at 18 are full, waiting for them. There are people all over the golf course.
At 15,
yeah,
they're waiting.
Here's 18, and on 15, they're already lined up, waiting for them to come in. Now look, that's 15. It has to be the largest crowd for a playoff that we've ever seen, I think.
It's the largest I've ever seen, Jim. This is a sports town, as you say. They are very proud of their Boston.
That's difficult, but long, difficult for an eagle.
He could get a 2-stroke swing here if he should make this. It'll make Curtis's putt a lot more difficult.
Still going. Each will have a birdie attempt. Physical strain and emotional and mental strain has to be getting to them a little bit now. Remember, this is the 5th round of golf in 5 days, everyone under the pressure of playing in the United States Open.
They're going to ask one of the officials to come over. Maybe something is wrong with the edge of the cup.
Jerry, do you have any idea?
I don't, Jim. I'm standing right here by the green. I'll walk a little closer and see if I can hear what's going on.
Okay. Battle. That's the USGA.
He just fixed the lip there a little bit. That happens sometimes when the caddy may pull the pin out without taking care. And I think Frank Hennigan has an idea of what that was all about. Francis?
The edge of the cup evidently was a little bit out of round, and the rules of golf say that the player isn't allowed to touch the inside of the hole. He has to call a member of the committee if there's any repair work to be done on the edge of the hole, and that's what happened. He called over the referee, Bill Battle, who did a little pressure job with the thumb and forefinger, and presumably the cup is now back to round.
Okay.
There was also a piece of trash in the hole. That's what he removed. He removed a stick out of the hole.
Oh, he did?
I don't think Curtis wanted to put his hand down into the hole and remove the trash.
Somebody was being neat to keep America clean.
Curtis was being cautious, too. You don't want to take some kind of an obscure penalty at this point.
That's right. That's what happened to Lloyd Mangrum in the playoff at Marion with Hogan when he picked the ball up, blew the fly off of it or the bug, and cost him 2 strokes.
Now opportunity does in fact knock for Nick Faldo. A par for Curtis Strange. Faldo makes this, the lead will shrink to 2. It's a tough road ahead of him, so to get back with Curtis. He has to make this one.
Nick can't.
He's going to stay on.
Have to. Strange things can happen between here and the clubhouse, obviously. You see Curtis working on the stroke there, but just can't let opportunities like this go by. You're getting late in the game. You're only going to have 4 holes left after this hole. You don't want to be 3 strokes down. This would be just to put him 2 back.
Shrinks to 2 strokes with 4 holes to play. And there's a little more hope in England as the family of Nick Faldo watch. His little daughter Natalie and 2 probably doesn't know too much of what's going on except she sees Daddy's picture. They're in the town of Welwyn Garden City, Hertfordshire.
Jim, the 15th hole is a 434-yard par 4. The road that you see, which is the entryway to the club, is about 280 yards off the tee. This is a nice par 4. The bunker there that you see in front of the green shouldn't come into play, and you've got a nice opening there. Bunkers each side of the green short, kind of reminiscent of a wingfoot type hole. The pin today on 15 is 45 feet back, 5 feet from the, 15 feet from the right side. See it there. In case you wonder about what they do in a playoff, they do in fact change the cups from the 4th round to the playoff round, but today they left them generally in the same area they were on Sunday's round, with the exception of the 5th hole, which was the biggest change.
The 11th hardest hole through the 4 rounds of the tournament was the 15th. And you will get another good look at this sizable gallery. We're down to this 15 and a par 3 at 16, and the always evil 17th par 4 and par 4 18th. Raised tee here, Nick Faldo.
This is where he made his only birdie yesterday.
I would think you'll need at least 1, possibly 2 birdies coming home, wouldn't you say, David?
I agree with that, Jack.
See as the hole that go in the future.
Well, it's down the right side, and it's going to catch the right-hand rough. And that is not the place to be on this hole.
Almost up where Curtis hit his yesterday afternoon, up by the road, and got a ruling.
Well, the flag is on the right-hand side, and that is not where you want to be here on this tee shot.
There it is, the man with the flag in the right rough. There's the shot from there to the green. And as Jerry has just told us, the flag over there, to the right. Curtis played this hole 1 over.
Come on, Win, move it.
That one's also down the right-hand side and drawing back. It can take a left-hand bounce and get out in the shortcut rough, and it did.
He's going to bring it through here if you want to wait, Larry.
So both of them on the right-hand side here at 15. This is the 15th. Up at the green. And look at them lying down both sides of the fairway. Students of golf history. All right, let's find out what the situation is with the 2 shots. Both of them in the right side of the hole.
Nick Faldo is 160 yards. Wind coming out of the right and slightly into him. has a good lie for being in that tall rough. It's as good as you could possibly expect. I believe he's going to take a 7-iron and try and hit it hard. Get it up in the air and carry that bunker. About 145 over the bunker. But it's hard to tell how far a ball is going to fly out of this rough, even though the lie is good. It looks like he has an 8-iron. Like more of a rounded toe on that club.
I can tell our stations down the line we are definitely going over, and we will be on till the conclusion of the playoff.
Well, he played it well out to the left and put a hole without running to the green. Just rolled through, but he didn't have much other play than that. On the left side of his hole.
That's right, Jerry. Even though, as I said, the lie was as good as you could expect, he still couldn't really fire it at the flag. That rough takes that club and turns it down closed, and most times the ball will come out to the left. Curtis is 148 yards. Wind coming out of the right, not quite as hard now as when Nick shot.
I do, yeah. It's going to jump some out of there. Sorry. I do too. Should come out quick in the fairway. Get down.
He's pulled it to the left, and it's a little bit hot. Well, it's in the left bunker, but that's not all bad.
Well, they both hit it to the right side off the tee and to the left side off the green on their second shot. Curtis Strange with a 2-stroke lead at the moment, and here's some more conversation between Dave Marr and Nick Faldo.
You were quoted in the papers saying that you had won your Open, and I understand how you feel. Do you feel there's a little less pressure on you than there may be on Curtis, because this is his Open he's trying to win?
Yeah, that's probably true. Yes, I think you know, that's my dream. That's what I dreamt about as a kid. I'm sure this is what Curtis has dreamed about. So this, for me, is a bonus. It's something honestly I've never dreamt about. But you know, once I won the Open, then it changes your plan for the next 5 years. You know, I'm exempted into all the majors, and all of a sudden you start to focus on the majors. They're the most important thing in your career.
Well said by Nick Faldo, Jack. And Curtis Strange's hero as a youngster was Sam Snead, no doubt the greatest player who's never won the Open.
Only because the gods of golf were nodding those days.
He's often said if he'd ever won one, he might have won 8 of them.
Curtis Strange with a 2-stroke lead here at the 15th green. And look at the gallery now, massing behind.
They're pitching back into the wind there, aren't they, Bob, Jerry?
Yes, Dave. Curtis is going to have to play this bunker shot into the wind. It's a long bunker shot, perhaps 55, 60 feet, but relatively flat green. Curtis has just played magnificently out of the bunkers this week. He has played some shots that are hard to comprehend. He did hit the one bad one at the 4th hole today, but aside from that, he's just been wonderful. Curtis right now has got to take stock of himself and try and get a hold of himself again. He made the nice birdie at 13. This is probably the biggest shot of the day for him. If he can get this ball close, he can put himself in very good position. That's not one of his better ones. That's about 12 feet short.
Didn't have too much room beyond the flag there, and you can see that it's not moving much. His wind is blocked there a little bit by the stands that you see to the right of the green. What about Nick's lie?
Nick has got a beautiful lie, just in a little short rough. He just has to get it on the green and let it run like a putt. I don't think you'll see him pitch it very far. I think he'll play a pitch and run all the way.
Whoa!
Very good right there. That might have cost Nick Faldo the United States Open Championship, that shot. He played it in a very strange way. He knew it was going to come out a little hot, and he pitched it a lot farther than he wanted to.
I don't know what club he played it with, Bob. It looked like a lot of loft. Maybe it was a wedge, and he was trying to, maybe for some reason, think he could get something on the ball out of there.
Well, it did look like he played it a lot longer than I thought he would have played the shot with, but I think it just kind of shot on him. And, yeah, coming out of this rough, even though he had a nice lie, it's very difficult to judge the speed.
Doesn't have the putter in his hand.
No, and he doesn't have the easiest of shots. He's got the kind of a shot, it comes a little uphill right at the start and then goes back down away from him. It's another shot that is very difficult to judge the speed, and of course he has to. He's taken the flag out, and he has to try and make it, of course. It's getting very late.
Like he's got a putter grip here. Change your style a little bit. Curtis does that when he gets a shot. Yes, see, he's got his putter grip there. We'll see if, oh, there's a little practice there where he's worn down the center of that club. Ooh, about 6 inches less hit on that. That might have been a fancy little four, never having touched the fairway.
Nick hasn't missed many fairways, but missing this one is going to be a very costly one.
Made his first birdie yesterday after 14 straight bars.
The only one he made yesterday. He has really left the door open for Curtis. And Curtis has done some wonderful putting in the last, say, 6 weeks of the American Tour. And it's amazing the number of players that have won at Muirfield at Memorial, like Nicholas, Irwin, Graham, Floyd, Watson, and Curtis have all won Opens. Person that can win there can also win a here.
Body blow.
I hate to miss it. Not the body blow would have been if he'd have made it. Then you'd have seen Nick be the one that'd be reeling or on the road for taking a standing 8
Bogey for Curtis, and now Nick may dodge a bullet here. Looks so good, didn't it?
Caught a lot of the hole. Just winked in.
shots behind. With 3 holes to play as we move off the 15th green over to the 16th tee in this beautiful little par 3.
It's a nice looking par 3 here, Jack. 185 yards. Problem here is your club selection and which way is the wind blowing. Now that front right bunker you see there is the one that you've got to carry the ball over. Yesterday, Curtis's ball hit on the downslope of that and went over the green. Nick hit an indifferent shot out to the right, caught the small bunker to the right of the green. Problem is that bunker lip sits up about 4 or 5 feet, hiding about 1/3 of that green.
And gone 9.
Wind will make all the difference on the club selection here. We have the same honor as yesterday too. Nick hit first.
This hole is going to play straight downwind today, Dave, and this is the toughest wind you can have on this hole. I don't think that they can carry the ball over that right bunker and stop it within 20 or 25 feet of the hole. I think the smart shot today would be down the left and into the slot, and let the ball take the roll back to the right.
There you see the flag whipping in that downwind.
Well, you know Curtis has to think that. He's not even thinking about going the other way. Nick now has the problem.
Hole's 182 yards today to the flag.
2 strokes behind with 3 holes to play. Conservatism cannot be the order of the day for Nick Faldo.
Downwind.
Now Curtis Strange, 2-stroke lead. Can play a little more conservative.
Yes, I would think Curtis is going to try and hit it in the left-hand slot because the wind is coming a little out of the left and behind. But trying to hit it there and hitting it there are 2 different things. You're thinking one thing, and you're guarding against that right because anything that gets away to the right, the wind is going to magnify the miss. So Curtis with just a nice solid 6-iron, I think. Just down the left-hand side and let it take the roll and go down to the flag.
Hope. Did not bite.
All right. Got a good little break there. Hit that back collar and got away from it, so it could have been a lot worse than it is.
We return to the playoff. We're live. Playoff for the U.S. Open Championship at the Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts. The threatened thunderstorm does not seem to be in the offing now. The skies are clear, no clouds. Cooling off a little bit. The wind is still the main weather problem for the players. Curtis Strange here with a 2-stroke lead over Nick Faldo, the current British Open champion. Curtis still looking for that first major championship.
He made a great putt here yesterday for a par. After hitting somewhat the same kind of shot he did here, went through the green back into the back and hit an indifferent chip down there. Now he knows there's still a long way between here and the clubhouse. Can't help but think about winning the Open, but you've got to keep your mind on the business at hand. Somebody's life today really going to change. And if Curtis should win, that will be one less question he has to answer that he gets asked every time at a press conference.
lined up far to the right of that hole.
Break.
It's still not far enough. Oh, he didn't hit it hard.
He hit it hard. That's as hard as you want to hit it. It got almost hole high.
Got that for par 3.
Go, Nick.
You don't do anything silly. You make Nick think he's got to make it to pick up a stroke. You make a guy build it a brick at a time when he's trying to get back.
And they can say, as they always do, you must just play the golf course and play for your score, not turn it into match play. But it's almost impossible. You're looking the other man in the eye.
You say it's true.
He stood there for a while.
4 breaks, and it looked like it looked very level there. He asked Curtis, "Can I finish?" Right ahead.
They'll finish up. Curtis has his putt. Jackson is a bit longer. All right, there's his par 3. Curtis must make sure of this one.
Just 2 very short putts here in the 3rd and 4th round. One at 17 on Saturday afternoon that looked even shorter than this, and at the 2nd hole starting out yesterday. So he has made a gang of putts. Now he's watched Nick's ball, but knows it's got to move a little to the left if it moves. But if you get it outside of the hole with too much speed, it's not going to break.
All right. Curtis Strange will maintain his 2-stroke lead with 2 holes to play. Now the problem for Nick Faldo becomes more difficult. He has to hope for a 2-stroke swing here at 17, Dave.
Beautiful golf hole, and as we've talked about, a lot of history here. Not overly long, 381. The Varden bunker on your left there. Bunker put in for the 63 Open on your right. Just a beautiful golf hole that swings. When you stand on a tee, Jim, you know it's a dogleg left and down into this long, narrow green. You can see the bunkers around the green. Now the pin, when that was taken, of course, was in the front of the green. The pin today at that hole is 63 feet back on the green, back on that shelf, and it's dead center.
There you see the wind. This is the history hole at the country club. This is where Francis we met, birdied it in the 4th round and again in the playoffs. He defeated Barton and Ray. This is where Boros birdied, eventually to turn out to give him a chance to tie and then win the playoff in 1963. And this is where Jackie Cupid took a double bogey.
And this is where Curtis 3-putted yesterday to go back into a tie.
Faldo just put that ball on the ground and hit it.
Perfect shot right down the center of the fairway. About 160 yards left of the flag, so he's in good shape.
Curtis has hit 2 perfect drives at this hole on Saturday and Sunday and made 5 both times. Not because of the drive, not because of his second shot, but he's 3-putted from relatively short distances both times.
He said on Saturday, Bob, that was the first time in the whole tournament that he tried to force a putt into the hole instead of being patient.
I'd say it's
Well, it looked like the kind of a putt he could do that with, Dave, and he pushed it just a little and got away from him, and then, of course, the second one spun around and came right back at him.
Crosswind out there, Bob?
Sort of in the player's face,
Is it?
Jim. Yeah, the drive is in the player's face. The second shot, the wind is going to be coming out of the right.
Okay, right. Being a dogleg hole. Two holes to history.
Hit it till you're ready.
He's taking his time now, I'll tell you. There's no time to be undecided. You have to have an idea of what you're going to do. Either cut it off the bunker, aim it down the right, and hook it a little.
Nice turn. Turn like a door.
Go for it, Curtis.
Come on, Curtis.
There it is.
Right in the middle of the fairway, about 135 yards.
So the second shot here will be very critical for Curtis. He's bogeyed this hole the last 2 days in a row, as Bob said.
Nick Faldo is 160 yards from the pin way back in the green in that little narrow neck, and the wind up there at the green is really whipping from the right. You can see the pin and the flag. The pin is actually bent. The wind is blowing probably harder right now than it has all day.
We can't see it, Bob, now, as a matter of fact.
You can't feel it where Nick is down here in the fairway because of the trees, but up there in that little gap, you can see it really blowing. No time to put it on the front of the green. He's got to try and shoot it back there.
What club would you guess, Bob?
Dave, it's between a 5 and a 6, but I think under the circumstances he's got to go with the 5 and try and hold it against the wind a little. If he wants to come the other way, he wants to hook it into 6.
Green tucked away in the corner of the golf course.
Right on line with the flag. Absolutely on line. A little bit long. Oh, and that's not where you want it.
That is somewhat near the position where Curtis Strange was yesterday, which was lightning fast coming down.
That's the only place you don't want it, is over the screen.
That was a good shot. See, where's the wind? You can just read it. Where's the wind? Is that what the ancient mariner said?
He said a lot of things.
Yes.
Curtis is 140 yards, David. He's coming from the right, so the wind is going to affect his ball. He's going to hit a shorter club, and therefore it'll be higher, and the wind will get it up there in that gap. I would think this is an 8-iron.
That'd be right to left pretty good.
He's definitely right to left pretty good.
Right to left pretty good, I think, is what Mark Armstrong's caddy. And that's true.
6-iron?
No, I kind of like that one.
Catch it leaning on the right back there.
It's not based on the yard. 140. You have to take it off.
He's hung that one out to the right. It's going to be in the right bunker.
Yep. Wind did not blow that right to left. He seemed to know it as soon as he hit it. Yesterday, he was all the way in the back on the left side of the green. Now he's lifted out to the right. Not embedded, however.
Actually, he's in pretty good shape. He has enough green to work with. He's shooting uphill, and he has a perfect lie.
Now, yesterday, he had this putt for a birdie that would have, to all intents and purposes, wrapped up the U.S. Open. Look how lightning fast that was. Just about touched the ball. Left himself with this, then, for a par. And left it to the left of the hole. That, in essence, is what caused the tie. Now today, Dave talked to him about that adventure.
Well, actually, I think what happened at 17 is an indication of what happens in an open. You played a marvelous shot and got on the wrong side of the hole.
Exactly. I did exactly what I wanted to do in the fairway. I did not want to leave it on the front tier where Nick was. I felt like that was a difficult two-putt. And not being on the top side of that green all week long, I just didn't realize how fast it could be and how fast it was. And I just didn't quite hit it easy enough, I guess, obviously. And a second putt, I think, was a direct result of the first putt, and I hate to admit it because you're supposed to gather yourself and forget about the next putt and go ahead. But I was a little bit in shock. I couldn't believe it went that far by, and I missed the putt. But I fortunately regrouped in part 18.
And here he is now, back on 17 again, with yet another adventure. He's bogeyed it the last 2 days. And again, he had a perfect tee shot as he did those other 2 days.
That's what happens to you, Jim. You overprotect with the wind there. He was left yesterday. He knows how fast that is. Jerry Payton pointed out, maybe he left himself easier shot. He's played a bunch of wonderful bunker shots this week.
This is much like the bunker shot he had at 18 yesterday, the same kind of shot. He can throw it way up in the air. It's very fast going down to the flag.
Now it's over to Faldo, who has a difficult shot in the back.
All he has to do is touch it. He's only about 4 or 5 feet off the putting surface, but there's no way that he can carry the ball up onto the green. He's got to land it in the short fringe, and barely to do that. He's got to do it with a very lofted club.
More difficult shot.
Takes off, it's going.
More difficult shot than Curtis's.
Well, I think they're about equally difficult, Jim, but this one now, with Curtis already having played the shot, is really tough. There's one thing about it, though, he's got to kind of try and make it, and I don't think there's any way he can hit the short. It's the one good thing that you might say about this shot, that I think it'll have to get to the hole.
Looks down in there a little bit, so it's not really be speedy, Jim.
Tough to keep it.
Stranger things have happened. The hole might get in the way.
But it didn't. It's about as close as he could keep it, right?
He chipped it as good as he could, I think.
Yeah.
He landed it in the short fringe with a very lofted club. It had a chance to go in. If it hit the flag, it was not going that hard, but anything when it gets past the hole just keeps going.
Now they'll both have to putt for pars on the historic 17th, and here it is.
You can see
Waiting the golfers
a little bit dejected there because he knows now, of all the putts he's had today, this might be the biggest. If he misses this, Curtis can play 18 whichever way he wants to, because you've got to figure I could make 5 there and just say Nick can't make 3. 18's been a difficult hole to birdie all week.
I think Reese Jones has to be commended, David, in the rebuilding job he did on this green. He has made a comparatively short par 4, and he left it the same distance, but he built the green so that you have to play a great second shot in there. You really have to guard against going past the hole, and you've got a couple of great pin placements.
That's true, and he did that, put some new pin positions at 9 and 11, and of course new greens, same area, but new greens at 1 and 4.
Well, the last playoff for the U.S. Open Championship resulted in a runaway from Fuzzy Zeller by 8 strokes over Greg Norman. That's not the case here. No matter what happens on 17, this has been a battle all the way down.
Now remember, with this new green, this texture of this green has been a little slower when you're from below the hole than an uphill putt has been on the others. He's played 16 greens seemingly of one speed, and now this one he can be a little firm with. He has to be. He's got to make this
with a par. Not quite. Bogey 5. Nick Faldo. Now Curtis Strange, to all intents and purposes, can wrap it up if he makes this putt. Nick would rather not watch. He'll move on to 18 and try to regroup. Think what he's going to do.
Curtis still has to keep his concentration, though, Jim. A 3-shot lead would really be sweet playing 18, because then you could make a 5, and you've got almost a cinch win. As I said earlier, take the monkey off his back about winning majors. Put your name on that trophy with so many other famous players and be an Open champion the rest of your life.
That should do it. That should do it. One more hole to play, but that should do it for Curtis Strange of Virginia. A 3-stroke lead with 1 hole to play. Played even par to this point. We'll take a look at 18, the finishing hole, Dave.
Well, that street is very close there, but you really don't hear it. I know Curtis isn't going to hear it right now. This is a slight dog leg to the left. The 2 bunkers you see there in the left rough are in play. Players on this hole sometimes, depending on the wind, the 3 bunkers there rather, maybe a driver, maybe a 3-wood to a green that is elevated a little bit, maybe 10 feet or so above the fairway. That front bunker has seen a lot of players in it this week. That's where Curtis played that great bunker shot yesterday. The pin today, 9 yards from the front of the green, 24 feet from the left side. You can see where it is.
David, I believe that Curtis has been in that bunker all 4 times, hasn't he?
You're right, Bob. He certainly has.
Yep. Look at this crowd lining the fairway here, and they're all around in the grandstands. It's reminiscent of the final round of the British Open, really. The grandstand's not nearly as large as they are over here, but big crowd. Look at the way in the distance down there.
Well, the people at 15 you see in the top left of your screen there, instead of facing the 15th green, they've now all stood up and they're back facing this 18th hole.
They have their binoculars or their portable TVs.
Well, this will be quite a moment for Curtis Strange, the son of a golf professional, Tom, who was a wonderful man. His dad when Curtis was 14, when Curtis and Alan were 14. And this is a great moment for this man who's really worked hard on not only his golf game, but his personality, and tried harder to not be so hard on those around him
and himself.
You can see what he's got out. He's got himself an iron.
Okay. 1 more hole for Curtis Strange.
Right down the fairway.
There it is.
Not very long, but in good shape.
Now, Nick, I would think, has to maintain his concentration a bit. Try not to think, well, it's all over.
Tonight he's going to reflect it. Look, he did the best he could. He tried as hard as he could. Not very many people tie for a U.S. Open, and even fewer win a U.S. Open. But history is repeating itself here, Jim, in that the 3 British Open champions, if something happens here, that were in playoffs, none of them won.
75 years.
Well, that's a big one. Cutting down the right side. It's going to end up in the middle of the right center of the fairway. Good position.
We return live. for the final time, it looks like, in this long, long United States Open Golf Championship. An exciting one from start to finish that has pitted on the final day an American against an Englishman. Each now has its approach shot to hit to the final green, then the walk-up, and what a moment that is going to be for Curtis Strange, because
there, see now, he's got Sarah right there, and
that's his brother.
Brother.
Yes, you don't even
Curtis
know.
Well,
he's got a white shirt on. That's the only way I would look.
Tears.
His wife Sarah, such a very nice young woman.
Terrific. And that's what you don't see when you're out there playing. is either how happy. I mean, that's maybe a little tears of happiness there that you think of tonight when they reflect on what happened today, and you'll do this for quite a long time after this, Jim. All the people, and all the places you've been, and here we are.
Remember that the applause you'll hear when they walk up will be for Curtis Strange, but it will also be for Nick Faldo. First, they must play.
This shot is from 225 yards.
Well, can he avoid that bunker finally one time?
He's got to get up just a little bit, and did.
All right. Wow, what a shot. You've said many times, Dave, you do get pumped up in a moment like that. You got it, Curtis.
I'll never forget that 2-iron. Hale Irwin hit it Wakefoot. Now he knows it's bad. So that is a good battle there because of the USGA.
Rossi, I know Curtis is a very good friend of yours. This must mean a little something to you, too.
It really does. I've got shivers running up and down my back.
Yeah, we can hear a little quaver in the voice there, Rossi.
Did you find that, Bob, when you won the PGA, that your friends and how you felt for them and how they felt for you when you talked to them?
It's just a feeling that you can't, you really can't tell about it, and they can't tell about it. It's 175 yards for Faldo.
And he's caught the ball. He had to go for the hole. That's what he did.
Any kind of chance. And there's one of the few balls I've seen that looks plugged there in the front, so all of a sudden it's gone from bad to worse for Nick.
That's exactly right.
But you know, Jim, you look at Curtis.
All right, here we have the tribute to the new champion of American golf. Faldo's wife on the left. Sarah Strange from his wedding. A lot of things in life to his mind right now.
About why haven't you won a major?
From now on, who knows how many majors he may win at the age of 33.
Well, he's felt all along. He's young. He's only 33. He's just coming into his prime. He's always felt he's had a lot of time. Got to be thinking of his dad who started him playing golf. All the people that have helped him. Chandler Harper helped him a lot. Chandler from down in
Old
his
Virginia
area.
man.
Right, from his area of the country.
There's Nick Faldo's shot. Green and three. Strange is on a two.
People may have to down. Nick may go in.
And there's the tribute for Nick Faldo. Let's listen to that.
Yeah, he looked over. I thought Nick looked over at Curtis and said, "Let me go." Yeah.
We've seen that a lot of times, so that the champion can then
Yes.
putt out. Everybody will wait for that, whereas they might not wait patiently and quietly for the other man to putt.
Looking back in years to come, too, Jim, they're going to see if Nick makes this, let's say, and he shoots 74 for the day, and Curtis 2 putts for 71. They're going to say, "Gee, that wasn't very close at all." You know?
Yeah.
I mean, beat him 3 strokes.
Yeah.
Never know how excruciating it has been for both of these guys all day long. Jill Faldo, his wife.
Chilean, Jill. Oh, he'll end with a bogey 5 for a round of 75. 4 over par for Nick Faldo.
I have to say the last 2 bogeys were because he had to try to do things that he wouldn't normally do if it was closer than that. Still a good show, Nick.
Now the formality of Curtis Strange crowning himself as U.S. Open champion, putting this ball in the hole. Take a few.
But you don't want to finish that way.
No.
Seen a number of times where a guy's a 2 or 3 stroke lead, he makes it from somewhere on the last hole.
This for an even par round of 71.
Yeah, for the U.S. Open. Way to go, Curtis.
Curtis Strange of Virginia has won the United States Open Golf Championship.
Ladies and
He's the American champion of golf, as Mark Harmon caddying for him today. And Nick Faldo with the pat on the back and the handshake.
For the new 1988 U.S. Open champion, Curtis Strange.
That's what it means to win it.
Curtis, that was one for an awful lot of people. Your dad, Sarah, the kids. What a great win.
Thanks, Fossey.
Kind of hard to find words for it, isn't it?
It's a date late on Father's Day, but it's for Dad and it's for everybody at home and for you and Sarah, everybody.
May this be the first of many, Curtis.
Thanks, Rossi.
That is the end of the story.
You think that's why they're majors? You don't do that at other tournaments.
We're going to leave you now. As Curtis Strange leaves the green, headed for the locker room. Tonight for quiet enjoyment of what he's done. Those last few moments didn't touch you. You're not very easily moved. Crowd will disperse to come back, well, who knows when. The U.S. Open Golf Championship has been at this great place, the country club in Brookline, 3 times. In 1913, 50 years later in 1963, 25 years after that, the year 1988, when the Englishman and the American fought it out nobly and at length. With the American winning this time. For Faldo, well, he's still the reigning British Open champion. He'll be defending that title in a few weeks. We'll be there. So will Curtis. And so I assume will Sarah. Perhaps another kiss for the waiter in Litherman Sanans. The 88th U.S. Open Golf Championship Playoff. This ABC Sports exclusive has been brought to you by Scorpio, German performance you can be comfortable with at select Lincoln Mercury dealers, and by USF&G Insurance. USF&G covers the USA. Curtis Strange, the winner.